First and foremost, I do not hate Titanic. There are a lot of Titanic superfans out there who are going to watch this video, and the minute they catch a whiff that this video doesn't hold the ship up on the highest pedestal, they're gonna call me a hater. But I actually love Titanic. It's just that I eventually grew out of the Titanic bubble and moved on to be able to appreciate other ocean liners. And second, it's hard for me to find a lot of Titanic images on the internet, so once in a while you might see me use images of her older sister ship, the Olympic, so bear with me on that. I think there is an issue where some select Titanic fans simply can't appreciate other ships. Now, it's important for me to say that my love of ocean liners began with this ill-fated ship, but for many years I thought all other ships were ugly and frankly none of them caught my interest. But as time went on, I started to see the beauty in the others. I think that many ocean liner enthusiasts started off as I did, and you'd probably agree that there is this invisible barrier or bubble that Titanic fans have to learn to break out of. It's almost a rite of passage when you realize there is another ship out there that you can appreciate. For instance, within this bubble, Titanic superfans believe strongly that it is the most beautiful ship of its era, or the most beautiful ever built. That's because lots of media describe it this way. Take the famous James Cameron movie, for instance. Of course, as anyone would expect, the movie talks about the ship like it was the defining vessel of elegance and class. The truth is, yes, the Titanic was very luxurious and nicely fitted, but there were plenty of other ships that could match its beauty, or even exceed it. Look at some of the German ships like the SS Kronprinz Wilhelm or SS Kaiser Wilhelm der Grosse, and you'll see the interiors were far more ornate and gilded, and yet these ships predated Titanic by about 10 years. Look at Titanic's older running mate, RMS Oceanic. The interiors have that same White Star Line style, except dialed up a few notches. Or what about the ships that came after Titanic? Personally, I think SS Rex can give it a run for its money when it comes to beautiful interiors. When it comes to the beauty of Titanic, I used to think the exterior was better than any ship out there, but after I broke out of the bubble, it became hard for me to think that way again. Sure, the ship looks clean and symmetrical, but when I looked at the exteriors of ships like RMS Lusitania, I saw some of that exact symmetry plus a curved and sweeping shape. I also have to go back to Oceanic too, because that ship has a beauty of its own. It has a classic ocean liner look to it, and its dimensions and proportions fit nicely. Now, I might be in the minority here, but I also think the outside of the RMS Queen Mary looks nice. When the Queen Mary went into service, the exterior was criticized for looking too old-fashioned. They compared it to the sleek look of SS Normandy. While many people don't like Queen Mary's well deck, numerous ventilation intakes, or her cruiser stern, I actually do. Those are the biggest reasons why I like the Queen Mary's exterior. Because despite the fact that she went into service amid the interwar years where Art Deco style ruled the canvas of design and creativity, the Queen Mary's exterior retained that classic ocean liner look. And also, I prefer her cruiser stern to the bowl-shaped clipper stern. So with all that said, when I compare the interiors and exteriors of the ships to Titanic, then it actually appears a bit bland. And that's okay. Titanic's designers opted for a more conservative look, just like the designers of Queen Mary did. Sometimes less is more. The designers wanted Olympic and her sisters to stand out from the crowd, and that certainly did work. Now, lastly, I noticed a lot of Titanic superfans believe it was the very last word in luxury service. I have to burst that bubble too. I mean, yes, White Star Line offered outstanding service, but it wasn't considered the best, more like among the best. When it comes to transatlantic service, Cunard Line has always been famous for it. On a Cunard ship, if a first-class passenger didn't like the style of chairs in their stateroom, the stewards would swap them out with a different style. If they wanted to play music in their room, the staff would procure a gramophone. And on the Queen Mary, for instance, if you sat down to dinner in the first-class main restaurant and you didn't like what was on the menu, the waiter told you that you could order whatever dish you desired, and the chef could reproduce it for you. There's a common saying that Cunard opted for speed, whereas White Star opted for comfort and luxury. The thing is that many people take it to mean that Cunard sacrificed luxury and comfort just so they could be the fastest. And that's not true. Look at the interiors of RMS Mauritania. They are fantastic, and in my opinion, I think they look nicer than Titanic's interiors. I'm not saying Titanic is ugly, it's just that between the two I prefer Mauritania because it's fancier and faster. I once spoke to someone who strongly believed that White Star Line was far more famous and had far more history than any other steamship company. That really baffled me because White Star Line was not the most famous. In fact, the reason most people even know their name today is because of the sinking of Titanic. Otherwise, I believe the average person would forget there ever was a White Star Line. And frankly, Cunard is much older than them. Their history not only preceded them, but it also succeeded them. By 8 decades. I think in essence, what I'm trying to say, and trying so carefully to say it, is that aside from the disaster, Titanic really isn't all that remarkable. Even when Titanic went into service, the ship wasn't as remarkable as most people believe, because a year earlier, Olympic had stolen all of the fame and headlines. Olympic was the largest ship in the world in 1911. And even when Titanic boasted its bigger size the next year, people weren't too impressed because it only exceeded Olympic by a small amount. For all intents and purposes, Titanic was always meant to be Olympic's younger sister, or in other words, the younger sibling to White Star Line's flagship. It wasn't until after the terrible sinking that the whole world really came to know Titanic. It was all over the news. There were investigations and famous trials. The stories of specific passengers were retold so frequently that the passengers' names became household names. Decades later, several movies would be made about the tragic event, and then the story of the sinking became legendary. Now today we have whole generations of people who regard the ship with a lot of accolades that perhaps aren't fairly given. Accolades such as the most beautiful, luxurious, and best-ranked ship. I must reiterate that this video wasn't created because I hate Titanic or that I hate Titanic fans. That's far from the truth. A while ago, I put out a video comparing Titanic to the Queen Mary. The video was not meant to pit the ships against each other. In fact, I thought I gave a fair and unbiased comparison of similarities and differences between the two ships. I just wanted to show people how ships can vary. So please, don't take this video to mean I hate Titanic. I've found great camaraderie in the ocean liner enthusiast community. I love Titanic, and I'm still fascinated when I learn something new about it. When the new Titanic Honor and Glory is finally released, you can be sure I'll be one of the first people to buy it. But the real reason I made this video is because when I started making videos about the Queen Mary and other ships, I began to notice just how many Titanic purists there were. People who strongly believe that no other ship holds a candle to it. The Titanic was a handsome ship, it was luxurious, and it was the largest ship upon completion. But if you put aside the disaster for just a moment, and compare the ship's design and appearance to its running mates and rivals, it really wasn't all that it is chalked up to be. In my opinion, the truth is, Titanic isn't that remarkable. My hope is that by watching this video, some new generations of ocean liner fans who strictly only like Titanic or White Star Line ships might be encouraged to research other vessels outside of White Star Line, and to develop and expand their interests. Maritime history is something every culture around the world can appreciate. It doesn't have to be limited to one ship or one company. And that's all I really wanted to say. Thank you all for joining me. Please like the video and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this content, consider supporting my channel by either signing up for my Patreon or to my YouTube memberships. That way you can get exclusive perks in return. Links are in the description below. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.